I was standing at the kitchen counter spreading peanut butter on day-old bread when Sarah told me I was selfish. The knife stopped moving. Outside the window, the neighbor's sprinkler made its slow arc across brown grass. I set the knife down carefully, wiped my hands on the dish towel I'd been using for 3 weeks, and looked at my daughter. She was 22, home from college for the summer, and her face held that particular mixture of righteousness and disgust that comes easily to the young. "You live like this on purpose," she said. Her gesture took in the kitchen with its peeling linoleum and the living room beyond with its Salvation store furniture. "You could have a decent life. You choose not to." I didn't answer immediately. The bread was generic brand. The peanut butter, too. I'd stopped buying name brands when Sarah was 7 and her mother left. That was 15 years of store brand everything, and my daughter had noticed. What she hadn't noticed was coming. Not yet. I grew up understanding that a man's value shows in what he builds, not what he displays. My father taught me that by never teaching me anything at all, by being gone more than present and leaving nothing when he finally didn't come back. I was 12 then. My mother worked 2 jobs for another 6 years until I could work 3. I learned early that money is not a river, it's a reservoir. You fill it slowly and you guard it carefully, and you never, ever pretend it's deeper than it is. When Sarah was born, I held her in the hospital room and made quiet promises. Her mother was asleep. The room smelled like antiseptic and that particular sweetness new humans carry. I looked at this impossibly small person and understood that everything would now be measured against her needs. Not wants. Needs. There's a difference that matters. The marriage ended 3 months after Sarah's 7th birthday. No dramatic scenes, no shouting. Just Claire packing methodically on a Tuesday morning while Sarah was at school, and me coming home from my shift at the distribution center to find half the furniture gone and a note on the counter. The note said she couldn't do this anymore. This meaning all of it. Me. Sarah. The careful budget. The second-hand clothes. The coupons I clipped every Sunday. She sent cards for a few years. Then she didn't. I kept working. Days at the distribution center. Nights doing bookkeeping for small businesses that couldn't afford proper accountants. Sarah went to school. I made her lunches. I checked her homework. On Saturdays, we went to the library because books were free and she loved books. I loved watching her love them. Money was always tight but never quite insufficient. I had a system. I tracked every dollar. I knew what we needed versus what we wanted. Sarah wore hand-me-downs until high school, when I understood that adolescent social dynamics required certain concessions. She got new clothes then, but not expensive ones. She got a phone, but not the latest model. She asked for things sometimes. I said no more often than yes. She never asked why. The bank account started the week after Claire left. I opened it in Sarah's name with me as custodian. The opening deposit was $73, which was what remained after I'd paid that month's bills. I added to it when I could. Some weeks that meant $5, some weeks $50. I took every bookkeeping job offered. I worked overtime whenever the distribution center allowed it. I stopped eating lunch and told myself I was trying to lose weight. I stopped buying coffee. I stopped buying anything that wasn't necessary for Sarah's immediate well-being or our basic survival. The account grew slowly, painfully slowly, but it grew. I never told her. That was the point. If she knew, she'd protest. She'd say I should spend it on myself, on us, on making our daily life easier. She'd be kind about it, which would make it harder. So I said nothing. I kept the statements in a locked box under my bed. I kept living in our small rented house with its persistent draft and temperamental water heater. I kept wearing the same 4 shirts in rotation. I kept spreading generic peanut butter on generic bread, and I kept adding to the account. By the time Sarah finished high school, the account held $63,000. She'd gotten a partial scholarship to the state university. I told her I'd handle the rest. She'd looked relieved and grateful and slightly worried. The worried look stayed. She asked several times if I was sure we could afford it. I told her not to worry. I worked more hours. I slept less. The account dipped to $58,000, then $54,000, then held steady as I adjusted. She came home for summers and winter breaks. She saw the same house, the same furniture, the same frayed towels and mismatched dishes. She started making comments. Gentle at first. "Dad, you should get a new couch." "Dad, this carpet is really worn." Then less gentle. "You're being stubborn. You deserve better than this." I deflected. I made jokes about old men and their old ways. I told her I was comfortable. I told her things were fine. They were fine. The account had grown back to 61,000. I'd taken a third bookkeeping job. I was sleeping 4 hours a night. My back hurt constantly from the distribution center work, and I'd started keeping ibuprofen in my pocket. But the account was growing. That mattered. That was what mattered. The summer after her junior year, Sarah came home different. Sharper edges. She'd been taking economics classes. She'd been learning about investment and opportunity cost and quality of life. She looked around our house with new eyes and found it wanting. Found me wanting. "You're wasting your life," she said one evening. We were eating dinner at the kitchen table, which tilted slightly because one leg had been broken and badly repaired. "You work all the time. You never do anything for yourself. You never go anywhere. You never buy anything. What's the point?" I told her the point was making sure she could finish school without debt. She waved that away. She had friends with debt. Everyone had debt. It was normal. What wasn't normal was a father who lived like a monk for no reason. "There's a reason," I said. "What reason?" I almost told her. The words were right there. Instead, I said, "I like my life simple." She made a sound of pure frustration and left the table. Her plate was still half full. I ate her leftovers because food was food and waste was waste. The tension built through that summer. Small arguments about small things that weren't small at all. I wouldn't get the air conditioning fixed, so we sweltered. I wouldn't replace the washing machine, so she spent hours at the laundromat. I wouldn't buy new sheets, so she slept on threadbare cotton that had been washed so many times it was translucent. "You're punishing yourself," she said. "Or you're punishing me. I can't figure out which." "Neither," I wanted to say. "I'm building something." But I didn't say it. The account had reached 71,000. Sarah had one more year of school. After that, she'd need first and last month's rent somewhere. She'd need work clothes. She'd need a security deposit. She'd need a buffer for the terrifying period between graduation and stable employment. She'd need a foundation. I was building her a foundation. But she didn't know that, so she thought I was selfish. That word landed in August, 3 weeks before she was supposed to return for her senior year. We'd been arguing about the car. My car, which was 23 years old and burning oil and probably needed more repairs than it was worth. Sarah said I should replace it. I said it still ran. She said barely. I said barely was enough. "Why are you like this?" Her voice had risen. "What are you saving for? What's the point of having money if you never use it to make your life better?" "I don't have money," I said, which was technically true. The distribution center paid me enough to cover rent and utilities and food. The bookkeeping brought in enough for Sarah's tuition and incidentals. There was nothing extra, nothing visible. Then where does it go? She was standing now, her hands flat on the table. "You work constantly. You must be making something. Where does it all go?" I met her eyes. "To you. It goes to you." "I see the tuition checks," she said. "They're not enough to explain this." Her gesture took in the kitchen again, the whole house. "You're living in poverty by choice. You're being selfish with your own well-being. It's not noble. It's just sad." Selfish. That word sat between us like something physical. I wanted to explain. I wanted to show her the statements, the careful planning, the projections I'd made for her post-graduation life. But something stopped me. Maybe pride. Maybe the knowledge that the gift would mean more if she found it herself, after I was gone, when she could truly understand what it represented. I was 57 years old. I was tired. My back hurt. My knees hurt. I had a persistent cough that I told myself was just a cough. I'd been meaning to see a doctor, but doctors cost money, and I'd gotten very good at living with discomfort. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she shook her head, grabbed her keys, and left. I heard her car start. I heard it pull away. I sat at the tilting table and listened to the house settle around me. The next morning, I drove her to the bus station. We barely spoke. She hugged me before boarding, but it was a duty hug, quick and obligatory. She said she'd call. She did, once a week, and the calls were brief and careful. We talked about school. We talked about her classes. We didn't talk about the argument. I kept working. I kept adding to the account. In October, it reached 80,000. In December, 82. I allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. This was enough. This was a real foundation. When Sarah graduated in May, she'd find an account with her name on it containing more than enough to start her adult life properly. I'd tell her then, or maybe I'd wait a bit longer, let her struggle briefly, just enough to appreciate what it meant. Then I'd show her the statements and explain that every store brand purchase, every patched shirt, every cold shower when the water heater failed, every hour of overtime and every sleepless night had been for this. For her. For her future. That was the plan. The cough got worse in January. I started waking up in the night, unable to breathe properly. I told myself it was the cold weather, the dusty air at the distribution center, age. I drank more water. I took more ibuprofen. I kept working. In February, I passed out during a bookkeeping job. The client called an ambulance despite my protests. The emergency room doctor was young and serious. She asked questions. She ran tests. She used words like suspicious and concerning in follow-up. She gave me referral papers for a specialist. I didn't make the appointment. Specialists cost money. The account was at 84,000. Sarah graduated in 3 months. I could last 3 months. But the body has its own schedule. In March, I passed out again, this time at home. The neighbor found me when she came by to drop off a package. More ambulances, more emergency rooms, more serious doctors. This time they didn't ask. They admitted me. They ran more tests. They used new words. Aggressive, metastatic, late stage. I asked how late. The doctor was kind. That was how I knew it was very late. They wanted to start treatment immediately. I asked about cost. They talked about insurance and payment plans and social services. I did the math. Treatment meant depleting the account. Treatment meant Sarah's foundation crumbling. Treatment meant months of suffering for a chance, not a certainty, of more time. I was 57 years old. I'd built something that mattered. Sarah was 23 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. The math was simple. I refused treatment. The hospital staff tried to change my mind. They brought in social workers and counselors. They talked about hope and fighting and not giving up. They didn't understand that I wasn't giving up. I was making a choice. The last choice. The most important one. They released me after 3 days. I went home to the small house with its persistent draft. I called Sarah and told her I was sick but managing. She heard something in my voice because she said she'd come home after midterms. I told her to focus on school. She had finals soon. She needed to finish strong. "Dad," she said, and her voice carried an edge of fear. "I'm okay," I told her. "Just a bug. Stay in school. I'm proud of you." We hung up. I sat in the quiet house and felt time differently. It had weight now. Texture. Each day was a specific thing I could count. I called the bank. I updated the account documentation. If something happened to me, Sarah was the sole beneficiary. Everything transferred automatically. I added a letter to the safe deposit box explaining the account's history. Every deposit, every sacrifice, every choice. I wanted her to understand. I kept working for another 3 weeks. Then my body made its own decision. The pain became unmanageable. The cough brought up blood. I called Sarah and told her she needed to come home. She arrived the next day. She took one look at me and went pale. How long has this been happening? A while, I said. Why didn't you tell me? She was crying now. Why didn't you call me sooner? Because I wanted you to finish your semester, I thought. Because your finals matter. Because everything I've done has been about giving you the best possible start. But I was very tired, and the words wouldn't come properly, so I just said, I'm sorry. The next few days blurred. Hospital beds, morphine, doctors who spoke in soft tones to Sarah while I drifted. She stayed with me. She held my hand. She said things I couldn't quite process but felt the shape of. Apologies, regrets, love. I tried to tell her about the account. The words came out wrong. She thought I was confused, delirious from medication. She soothed me. She told me not to worry about anything. I wanted to explain. I wanted her to understand that everything had been purposeful, that the frayed towels and generic peanut butter and broken furniture hadn't been meanness or martyrdom or madness. They'd been a strategy, a long, patient strategy to give her what I'd never had: security, options, a foundation. But the morphine made words slippery and time ran out before I could find the right ones. I died on a Tuesday morning. Sarah was there. I felt her hand in mine and hoped she knew. Hoped she understood. Hoped the account would speak for me. But I'm telling this story, so something's wrong with the timeline, isn't it? The master prompt requires my voice, present, and continuous. So let me reframe. Let me tell you what happened before that final moment. Let me tell you about the day I decided to tell her everything. It was the night before I went to the hospital for the last time. Sarah had come home for spring break, 2 weeks early, because I'd finally admitted I was unwell. She'd spent the day cleaning the house and organizing pills and making phone calls to doctors. Now it was late. We sat at the kitchen table, the one that still tilted. "Dad," she said, "I need to tell you something." I waited. "I'm sorry for what I said about you being selfish." She was crying. "You're not selfish. You've never been selfish. I just didn't understand." "What do you understand now?" My voice was rough. Speaking hurt. "That you gave me everything, that you always have." She wiped her eyes. "I see it now. The way you lived. The choices you made. It was all for me. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner." This was my moment. I could tell her about the account. Show her the statements. Let her know that the foundation was already built and waiting. But something made me pause. Maybe I wanted her to find it herself. Maybe I wanted the discovery to come with its full weight after I was gone, when she'd truly be alone and truly need it. Maybe I wanted my final gift to be a surprise that arrived exactly when hope seemed impossible. Or maybe I was just too tired to explain. "You see it now," I said. "That's enough." "I love you, Dad." "I love you too." We sat in silence. Outside, the neighbor's sprinkler made its familiar arc. The house settled around us. I thought about the bank statements in their locked box. I thought about $73 growing over 15 years into $84,000. I thought about every overtime shift, every skipped meal, every patched shirt. I thought about my daughter's future, solid and secured. "There's something I need to tell you," I said. Sarah leaned forward. "What is it?" I looked at her face, so young and so worried. I thought about the letter in the safe deposit box. I thought about the moment she'd open it and understand everything fully. "I'm proud of you," I said. "You're going to be fine. Better than fine." It wasn't what I'd planned to say, but it was true, and maybe it was enough. She squeezed my hand. "We're going to fight this. We're going to get you better." I didn't contradict her. Let her have hope. The account would be there regardless. The foundation would stand. That night, I added a codicil to the letter in the safe deposit box. I wrote it by hand, slowly, because my hands shook. I told her everything. The first $73, the weekly additions, the overtime shifts and the bookkeeping jobs and the generic brand everything. I told her about the plan, about watching the account grow and knowing I was building something that would matter. I told her I was sorry for letting her think I was selfish. I told her I understood why she'd thought it. I told her the truth. would come with the account statements, and I hoped it would explain everything I'd never said properly while alive. I sealed the letter. I put it in the box. I went to bed in my small house with its persistent draft and slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, I felt worse. Sarah called an ambulance. The hospital admitted me. This time they said I wasn't leaving. Sarah stayed. She held my hand. She talked to doctors. She made decisions about comfort care. She was strong and capable, and exactly the person I'd hoped she'd become. In the morphine haze, I tried to tell her. About the account. About the foundation. The words wouldn't form. She thought I was confused. She soothed me. I stopped trying. The letter would explain. The account would speak for me. I died 3 days later. But this is where the story should end, with me still alive, explaining what happened next through inference and preparation. So here's what I'd prepared for. Sarah would grieve. She'd handle the funeral arrangements on a tight budget because that's what she thought I'd left her. Nothing. She'd find the locked box while packing up the house. She'd break it open with a hammer because she wouldn't find the key immediately. Inside, bank statements showing an account in her name, $84,000, 15 years of deposits, a detailed letter explaining every choice. She'd sit on the floor of my empty bedroom and read the letter twice. 3 times. She'd cry. She'd understand. She'd realize that every argument about the broken washing machine, every frustration with my stubborn frugality, every moment she'd thought I was being selfish had actually been me building this. For her. She'd use the money wisely. First and last month's rent, professional clothes, a security deposit, a buffer for job hunting, everything I'd planned. And eventually, years later, when she had her own children, she'd understand even more deeply. She'd understand the particular mathematics of parental love. The way you count cost differently when it's for your child. The way sacrifice doesn't feel like sacrifice when it builds something that matters. She'd tell her children about their grandfather who lived in a small house with broken furniture and ate generic peanut butter. She'd tell them why. She'd teach them about the difference between meanness and strategy, between suffering and purpose. The foundation would hold. That was what mattered. I'm 57 years old. My back hurts. My knees hurt. I have a cough that won't quit. I'm sitting at a tilted kitchen table eating store-brand everything. My daughter thinks I'm selfish. She's wrong. But she'll understand eventually. The account holds $84,000. I'll add more this month. Maybe next month too if I'm still adding. If not, $84,000 is enough. It's more than enough. It's a foundation. It's 15 years of saying no to comfort so I could say yes to her future. It's every overtime shift and every skipped meal. It's love measured in dollars and deposited weekly. She called me selfish. Soon she'll find the bank account in her name. Then she'll know.